Chapter 3. Dalton opened his eyes to a multitude of objects scattered around on the floor in front of his face. He ignored the searing pain in his head and blinked several times to clear his vision. The sounds of people crying and begging for help resonated through the air. What happened? He remembered signing his tab, then a loud screech ripping the air. He'd been thrown backward where he'd struck his head against the hat rack, after which everything went black. He rolled to his knees. When he shook his head to clear away the cobwebs, a round of nausea almost made him retch. Somewhere, a woman screamed, followed by the whimpering cries of a child. He needed to get to his feet. People were hurt and needed help. The money car! Are we being robbed? Grasping the dining car's nearest tabletop, he pulled himself up, then gave his legs a second to firm. It was then he felt blood trickle down the back of his neck. Reaching up, he found a small gash. He extracted his handkerchief, folded it over, and pressed it to the back of his head. Shattered dishes littered the area. Overturned chairs cluttered the aisle. It was a good thing the tables had been bolted to the floor. He lent an arm to a porter who was lying in the passageway. "You all right?" The man nodded as he stood. "What happened?" Dalton asked. "Don't know." The porter clenched his eyes shut for a second, then gripped his forehead. "Go help who you can." He nudged some plates out of his way with his boot. The passengers who were conscious began to stir. They climbed to their feet, moaning and crying. The porter raised his arm over his head and pointed toward the exit. "That way, ladies and gentlemen. Make your way out of the car and help others as you go if you're able." Urgency filled Dalton. He needed to get to the money car, check on Evan and Pat, but he couldn't turn a blind eye on so many who needed assistance. He stuffed his blood-stained handkerchief back into his pocket and clutched the door handle. About to jerk it open, he paused at the sound of a whimper. Barely visible, and wedged in between a toppled chair and the wall, was a boy, maybe 6 years old. Blood ran down the side of his face from an angry-looking cut just above his temple. Dalton dropped to a knee. "Here you go, little tyke." He noted the child's frightened eyes as he uncovered him and gathered him into his arms. Standing, he set him atop a table, and with a knife he always carried, cut a long strip from the edge of the tablecloth. Cutting another square, he folded it up and pressed it against the wound. The boy cried out. "Now's not the time for tears. I need your help. Be a good boy and hold this for me." He picked up the child's hand and showed him how to hold the bandage he'd folded and placed on his head. With nimble fingers, Dalton wound the other cloth strip around the boy's small head several times, then tied it off. "There. That should stop the bleeding." He glanced around for the child's parents. "Where's your ma and pa? Do you see them anywhere?" The child shook his head. "Fine then, you just sit still. I'm sure there'll be someone along soon to help you find them." A shot rang out, then another. Dalton jerked up. Outlaws? Had they stopped the train? When he turned to go, the child grasped his hand. "Take me too," he said through a voice clogged with fear and tears. "It's too dangerous," Dalton said firmly. "I'm scared." "Oh, hell." He scooped up the bedraggled child, ignored a wave of dizziness, and jerked open the door. People behind him crowded his back in their hurry to disembark. Soot and smoke filled the afternoon air, but there was no sign of fire. The townsfolk nearest must have somehow gotten word of the accident because a handful were already hurrying to and from the train, carrying injured passengers and Union Pacific employees. Dalton handed the boy to the first woman who ran forward. "Take him." "Is he your son?" "No, couldn't find his parents." Several more shots rang out. She flinched, but he pressed the boy into her arms anyway. Now free, Dalton sprinted toward the back of the train, alarmed for the large treasury he'd been commissioned to safeguard and the lives of the other guards. He weaved in and out of people sitting on the grass and the scattered luggage that had been tossed off the train. Adding to the confusion, several wild-eyed steers darted around him and ran off. What was going on? Should he have been at the money car already? Guilt made him race faster. Was the money already gone? Almost to his destination, another shot sounded. Dalton stumbled to a halt, his lungs hot with the effort of running. From inside the now